Andrew Lieberman and I, the set designer and I, sat down. We said, well, look, there are all these productions out there, and I said, well, I don't want to do any one of those, right? So those are all in the universe. They're all good ideas. Shakespeare can take a lot of ideas. And the longer you spend with Merchant of Venice looking into it, the more you realize that Merchant of Venice has been set in every conceivable time period imaginable since 14th century Venice, in celebrated productions all over. In fact, the idea of doing it contemporary was also recently done at the RSC with Henry Goodman. So there's a lot of examples of taking Merchant of Venice and putting it in different time periods. And we didn't rule out any of the time periods that were being used, but I thought, well, what will be interesting for Washington audiences to see something different. Where else might we go? So we started looking at the early 20th century, and we kept coming back to these images from the Lower East Side of New York. And they were pictures of elevated subway trains and how eerily similar the architecture was to the bridges of Venice. And it led us to consider setting the play in the late 1920s in the Lower East Side. And at first we said, well, we'll just do the design like that, but it'll still be Venice. And then we gradually were like, or maybe not. As we kept looking at the choices we made, they kept driving us back to this idea. And since that time, I've thought about it. And I thought, well, why am I intrigued by this? Well, for one thing, when Shakespeare set the play in Venice, he was putting it in the most cosmopolitan, polyglot place he could think of. That was one of the big appeals of that setting, as opposed to putting it in the Merchant of Paris or something like that. Lower East Side, teeming with immigrants and with cultures bumping into one another. For another thing, when we do that, the Italians in Merchant of Venice become one more immigrant group that are seeking to get themselves into to enfranchise themselves in the society, as are the Jews of Shylock. So instead of the play being a sort of group of hegemonic Italians repressing and ghettoizing a group of Jews, suddenly the two cultures are on maybe a little more even footing. They're two different groups, each one attempting to get its slice of the American dream, and in the course of fighting for the crumbs that are falling off the table of the wealthy people, they come into conflict with one another. And I thought that was interesting. When I was listing off the various recent productions, they were all sort of a Shylock and a director. And there's a real temptation to feel that you have to kind of star cast Shylock. While I would never suggest that the actor that I'm going to have playing Shylock is not a star and a really bona fide, big-time, serious actor in New York and beyond, Mark Nelson is not a household name. I think that there's a real potential to imbalance the play if you put your star weight in one corner of it, because it's actually, as a play, it alternates between three locations and three worlds. You have the Venice of Antonio, and I'm really excited that we're going to bring Derek Smith back to the Shakespeare Theater, where he hasn't been in a long time. I grew up as an assistant director here working with Derek, and he is, in my opinion, one of the finest actors in the country. So we'll have Derek as Antonio. The second world is the Jewish world, and that is Shylock, and slightly underrepresented because Shakespeare only gives us one other character in it. But we're going to use our talented ensemble to flesh that out a little bit more. And then the third world is Portia's world, is Belmont. And as Portia, we'll have the wonderful and talented Julia Coffey coming to play Portia, an actress who's been here several times and is just absolutely fantastic, and I'm really excited to have her. So yeah, I'm excited about bringing it together. I mean, we started working on this, Andrew and I started working on this last fall. So it's been, although I've done 4 plays since then, it's been sitting in my mind for a long time.